Have you ever wondered if you could beat Fallout as a folklore figure who helps people fall asleep and controls whether or not they have nightmares or dreams? Well, I've had this exact question. So I ask, can you beat Fallout New Vegas as Mr. Sandman? First, let's get some rules out of the way. I will only be allowed to use melee and silenced weapons. That means nothing that makes a loud noise. I must max out stealth as fast as possible, and I will be forced to use any armor that gives a stealth bonus. I also must play the game at nighttime whenever possible to be more accurate to Mr. Sandman, as well as I will have to pick theme-appropriate perks when I get the chance, such as Friend of the Night or Mr. Sandman perk. With the rules in place, let's dive into the Wasteland and see how Mr. Sandman fares. I started my journey in the most familiar way, waking up at Doc Mitchell's house after getting shot in the head. Again. That's right, the third time's the charm for surviving a gunshot to the brain. Maybe luck is on my side after all. For my name, of course I choose Mr. Sandman. To fit the 1950s aesthetic, I decide to make Mr. Sandman a greaser. Picture a stealthy rebel with a pompadour sneaking through the Mojave. It's perfect. Here's how I distributed my special stats. 4 strength to boost melee damage, 6 perception for perk requirements, 6 endurance for health and survivability, 1 charisma, who needs words when you have a machete, 7 intelligence for skill points, 6 agility to enhance sneak and qualify for the stealth perks, and 9 luck for crits and, of course, money. I spoke with Doc Mitchell to answer his questions as he asked me to tell him the first thing that comes to mind. For my tag skills, I chose guns, lockpick, and sneak. For my traits, I chose skilled and trigger discipline. Then I exited the house, but it was a little too bright for me, so I waited until 8 p.m. So off into the dark wasteland I went. I talked with Chet about buying a silenced 22 and selling all of my normal weapons to him. I then lockpicked a door for some experience points, then talked with Sunny Smiles and asked for help, but not after stealing a magazine, which I never ended up using. I then used my silenced 22 to shoot the Sunset Sarsaparilla bottles, and off I went to clear the water wells for Sunny so I could get 5.56 ammo. After that, I went into the saloon and killed Joe Cobb with my machete. I spoke with Trudy to ask what that was all about, and she told me that Joe Cobb guy was after a man named Ringo. I asked where Ringo was and made my way towards the gas station to speak with him. I tried to talk with him, but he was pointing a pistol at me. I told him I'm not gonna hurt him, and I said that there was a man named Joe Cobb who was looking for him. We played a hand of Caravan so I could rob him blind. I went to Sunny Smiles and asked for her assistance with the powder ganger situation, and she said yes. I then made my way back to the gas station and told Ringo that Sunny was with us, and that we should fight them now or never. Then it was time to fight the powder gangers, who I chopped and sliced my way through. Every last one of them. I leveled up after that ordeal and picked barter, guns, lockpick, and sneak, as well as picking the Friend of the Night perk. I then started to make my way towards Outer Vegas. I had to fight a handful of bark scorpions, which I cut down with my machete, as my 22 would be objectively useless against their armor. I was then approached by Neil, who told me it was dangerous, so I said goodbye and went on my way anyway. I looted the NCR Trooper and went through the Indiana Jones shortcut to make my way to Outer Vegas to find the man who shot me. Then I had to wait again for it to be nighttime. I stopped at the Grub and Gulp for directions. Next, I went to the Gunrunners for some 22 ammo, and off into Freeside I went. Suddenly, I was attacked by a maniac wielding a sledgehammer, who I rightfully beat down with my machete. I entered the Atomic Rush and began to gamble, just as I always do. After reaching over 5,000 caps, I went to go turn in my chips for caps and left the casino. I submitted to the credit check and passed. Now, I was on my way into New Vegas. Afterward, I headed into the tops to look at Benny and get my sweet, succulent XP. I then leveled up and put my points into medicine and sneak, as well as choosing the educated perk. After that, I headed back to the Gunrunners to buy the Sleepy Time SMG for my main weapon. I stop-hopped my way to the 188 trading post to make Veronica my companion. We made our way over to the Brockflower Cave to retrieve my rightful weapon, the Rat Slayer. I talked with Mr. House so I could convince Swank to let me kill Benny. After leaving the Lucky 38, I talked with Swank and told him about Benny. I killed the guard on the upper floor so I could get a clean shot on Benny and his cronies. I took pot shots at Benny and killed him, as well as I took the platinum chip off his body. Afterwards, I headed to the dam to finally collect my Chinese stealth armor. Following that, I headed on my way to Prim and had to slay a few geckos. An NCR trooper told me to be careful, and I went on my way. I then had to slay a few powder gangers that were occupying the town of Prim. I made my way inside to help Deputy Beagle. As soon as I entered, I had to take a powder ganger's head off his shoulders. And a few more came running towards me, so they met the same fate. I lockpicked the door to get to Deputy Beagle. Successfully lockpicking the door, I shot a few more powder gangers from the shadows, freeing Deputy Beagle and making my way outside to talk with him. I spoke with him and told him that I was bringing law and order back to Prim. I sniped a few Jackal gang members, also from the shadows, and they didn't even know what hit them. I leveled up and put my points into barter, lockpick, and sneak. Then I made my way to the Mojave outpost. Speaking to Major Knight, I didn't have enough barter to convince him to send more troops to Prim, so to not make this a complete waste of time, I told him to repair some of my things. I then spoke to Ranger Jackson and told him I would take care of his ant problem. After talking to Ranger Jackson, I went up to speak to Ranger Ghost and get the task to go over to Nipton. I then sniped all the ants that were crowding the highway for Ranger Jackson. I had to wait again and sleep through the day. While on my way to Nipton, I saw an ambush of Jackal gang members, so I started to take shots at them and sniped every last one of them. After getting to Nipton, I talked to Volpez and he told me to spread the word to the NCR. I went to Ranger Ghost and told her that Nipton was attacked by the Legion. She was shocked that the Legion was this far west. I then went to Ranger Jackson and told him that the ants were dealt with. After exiting the Mojave outpost, I remembered to let Sergeant Kilborn know of the Legion attack. I made my way back to Prim and recruited Prim Slim to be the sheriff of the town with my 30 science skill. I leveled up and put my points into barter and lockpick, as well as choosing the toughness perk. I then made my way to Zion Valley with the Happy Trails caravan and waited until nighttime. I had to take out a few white legs with my Rat Slayer sniper rifle. After walking a little while, I ran into Follows Chalk, who would guide me to Joshua Graham. On my way to go see Joshua, I had an encounter with a giant Yaoguai. I no-scoped it and went on my way. I leveled up again and put my points into lockpick and survival. As I made my way to speak to Joshua, I was warned by a dead horse disciple to be respectful to Joshua, which I was going to do anyways, as Joshua is one of the greatest characters in this game. I finally got to speak with Joshua, and he told me that he can't expect God to do all the work, and how he was sorry that the Whitelegs attacked my caravan. After grieving my friends, he told me to go collect pre-war items to help Daniel and his tribe, the Sorrows. I started with repairing the compass, then I made my way to Zion Fishing Lodge, and had to kill a few geckos that were occupying the lodge so I could retrieve the 2 walkie-talkies. After that ordeal, I made my way to the general store to collect lunchboxes. I guess so they could have a picnic before destroying the Whitelegs? I still don't honestly know why they needed the lunchboxes. Following the collecting of the lunchboxes, I had to make my way to Zion Ranger Station to collect a medical kit, which I had to salvage with my 30 medicine skill. But before I could do that, I'd have to clear out all the bark scorpions. I leveled up and put my points into lockpick, survival, and unarmed, as well as choosing the Mr. Sandman perk. How fitting. Continuing my adventure, I finally made it to the Sorrows camp and spoke with Daniel about what he needs next from me. I then spoke with Whitebird, and he wanted me to drink Datura tea and go collect the paw of the Ghost of She. While high as balls on Datura, I spoke with Joshua Graham, and he gave me a Bible verse, and told me that he wanted me to fight the Whitelegs, and told me to convince Daniel to do the same. While on my way to find the Ghost of She, I had to fight off a maul of Yaoguai, so I proceeded to put lots of bullets into their brains and went on my way. I finally found the Ghost of She, and I fired hundreds of 10mm rounds into her. After putting the Ghost of She out of her misery, I took her paw for myself and headed back to the Sorrows camp. I returned to Whitebird and told him that I completed my task, and he gave me a weapon as my reward. I spoke with Daniel, gave him the map that he needed, and told him that he and his tribe needed to fight off the Whitelegs. He was upset, though he reluctantly accepted to fight them. I spoke with Joshua for the last time as he was made my companion. I then made my way towards Salt Upon Wound's lair. But before I could get there, I would have to take many lives of the Whitelegs with the power of my newly acquired Paw of She. It was a hard battle, but in the end, I came out on top. Joshua did his little monologue. Salt Upon Wounds begged for his life, so I talked to Joshua and told him I have no objections to his decision. So Joshua executed Salt Upon Wounds right in front of me. I can't say that I felt bad, but I slightly felt like I could have stopped Joshua. As the DLC came to a close, I collected all my stuff and made my way back out into the Mojave to figure out who I was going to side with. Thank you for all voting on the poll I set up on who I should side with. You all chose the NCR, so I obliged and made my way over to the NCR headquarters to speak with Ambassador Crocker. He told me to gain the favor of the boomers, so that's what I did. But before I could go to Nellis, I had to snipe this guy and take all of his caps. I then hopped my way over to Nellis, spoke to Pearl, and went around Nellis to help out. The first stop was Pete in the museum. He told me the story of the boomers, and told me that blowing up ignorant savages is fun. After listening to the story of the boomers, I went to Jack to give him all my scrap metal. I went to the gun runners once more to buy scrap metal and give it to Jack, which got me idolized by the boomers. I went to Pearl, and she said I've done a great job of earning the trust of her people, and told me to go speak to Loyal for my last mission. But before that, I went back to the Mojave outpost to repair my armor. I then made my way to go get the bomber out of the lake, but before I could even get into the water, I had to kill a few lake lurks by sniping them in the head from a safe distance. I put the ballast on the plane and had to kill a lake lurker before I detonated them. I then pushed the button and went on my way back to Nellis to report my work. When I went to go speak to Loyal, I entered his house and my game crashed again, just like last time. I reloaded and spoke to Loyal for the last time and told him that his plan worked. I talked with Pearl for the last time and asked her if the boomers could help at the Battle of Hoover Dam. She said yes. I made my way back to the NCR headquarters to speak with Ambassador Crocker. I told him that I got the boomers to help the NCR. Ambassador Crocker told me to go deal with the Kings, so I did. I followed the King to his room and assassinated him with the Sleepy Time SMG. I then killed Pacer, and I had to fight my way out of the building. When I made my way out onto the street, I had to kill 3 more of them, and the battle was over with. I went back to Ambassador Crocker, and he scolded me for not taking a diplomatic approach to the matter. I said I didn't care, and he sent me off to Hoover Dam to talk with Colonel Moore. I then spoke with Colonel Moore, and she gave me a mission to go to Red Rock Canyon. I went on my way, and had to kill only a few fiends. Now that that's over, I stop-hopped my way to Red Rock, but not after my game crashed for a second time. I reloaded and killed a guy in his sleep with the Mr. Sandman perk. I shot the rest of them from out of sight and killed Papa Khan. I then went back to Colonel Moore and told her that the Khans wouldn't be a problem ever again. She sent me on a mission to find what the Omuertas were doing, so I went to go speak with Lisa for a lead. I then talked to the front desk lady at the Omuertas casino. Then I talked with Cachino and stole his journal. He told me what the Omuertas were planning, and I had to put a stop to it. I killed Big Sal, failing the quest, and went back to Colonel Moore, who was eating a bagel for some reason, but I had to lie to her to advance the game, even though my speech skill wasn't high enough. She told me to go take Mr. House out of the picture, so that's what I did. Instead of bonking Mr. House with a 9-iron, I decided to snipe him from across the room. I went back to Colonel Moore and told her Mr. House would no longer be a threat. She then told me to go kill the Brotherhood of Steel. So I stole all 3 keycards, created a detonation code, and set up the detonation. I then made my way out of the bunker and bathed in the glory once more. I made my way back to Hoover Dam and told Colonel Moore that the Brotherhood was no more. She gave me an assignment to protect the president of the NCR, President Kimball. I first had to speak with Ranger Grant about what I would be doing. He said I would be doing surveillance. While waiting on a sniper tower, we were ambushed by a Legion member dressed as a ranger. I killed him promptly and went on my way to report my findings to Ranger Grant. President Kimball then flew away in his vertibird, never to be seen again. I told Colonel Moore that the president was safe, and she told me to go meet with General Oliver. I spoke with General Oliver, and he talked about the future battle of Hoover Dam, when we were suddenly interrupted by someone. He said the dam was under attack, and told me I needed to get out there ASAP. I fought my way through multiple legionaries, and made it to the Legatlanius' fort. I ran my way through the fort to confront Legatlanius. I then proceeded to die over and over and over again. I tried it one last time. I pulled out my 50 cal with high explosive rounds and started taking pot shots while stop hopping backwards. I took out 2 of his men and kept stop hopping my way until victory. I was about to lose, then I finally blew up the Legate. I made my way to the gate, and General Oliver blew down the door and took his sweet time walking over to me. So yes, you can beat Fallout New Vegas as Mr. Sandman.